Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Today we have Kim Hendricks, who's the PSAP manager for the City of Suffolk Police Department, and we'll explain exactly what she covers. And you'll know really what she covers by the fact that we're also going to be talking about National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, which is April 12th through the 18th. Very important week to recognize the men and women who are really on the other end of that phone when you have to call 911. Very important people. So Kim, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, certainly interesting times that we're coming together to talk about this particular topic, given everything with COVID-19, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, what does that mean to you and your staff as far as getting that attention to say thank you for the job that you do? It's
an opportunity for us to get the recognition that we don't get on a regular basis.
Right.
In 1991, U.S. Congress designated the second full week of April every year to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It is a way to honor and recognize these dispatchers that typically no one ever gets to see.
They're a voice, not a face, so to speak, in a lot of instances. And again, that's really what we're counting on. The fact that when we pick up the phone and dial 911 or call non-emergency, either way, we're getting to someone that's answering the phone, understanding what's going on, and dispatching the proper public safety personnel in the event that that has to happen for that to all occur. So I'll ask this question, and I don't know if there's even an answer for it, but what is a typical day or shift like for someone who's working the call center and doing that? And again, it's a 24/7 operation, and obviously y'all do work in shifts because you want to make sure everyone's fresh and ready to go, but is there a typical day?
There is no typical day.
Okay.
Our dispatchers do work a 12-hour shift. They come in at either 6 in the morning or 6 in the evening, and they sit down to a console with a headset. And when they start punching in on these calls, they never know what they're going to get. Today could be a very busy day, or it could be a very slow day in the sense of not much crime happening or not as many illnesses being reported, which is a good thing.
Correct.
But when they punch in on that line, they don't know what they're going to get.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that we face every day is you're going from call to call. A lot of times you don't have an opportunity to take a breath and slow down. You're steadily answering phones, one right after the other.
And I mean, if you have, say, for example, an auto accident that occurs, you might get several phone calls from people, passerbyers that see the accident that occurred, maybe the people that were involved in the accident itself, if they're able to call to kind of get, police and fire and rescue out there to kind of handle the situation. So there may be a deluge of calls, and then it kind of backs off a little bit from that incident, but then there's always another one right around the corner, depending upon the circumstances, right?
Correct. And then there's some times where we want multiple callers to call in, and yet we only get one call.
Correct.
So you just never know.
You don't. Talk about the training that goes into someone who does that for a living. I mean, it's not just, here's the phone, answer the phone, punch this button. It's not just that. There's a lot that goes into that, including some medical training that also comes into that, because they may be helping someone that doesn't maybe know CPR to kind of address something until the actual public safety folks can get there, right?
That's correct. Yeah. We hire people with no experience. We send them to a 2-week basic dispatcher academy where they're able to gain some basic knowledge skills. And once they come into the center, they're assigned to a communications training officer who is going to take them and give them everything that they need to perform the job. We go through CPR training, and we must maintain that certification, not just having it, but maintaining it when expiration time comes around. We also train them on handling emergency medical dispatch questions. So those are a series of questions that we ask all callers reporting a medical emergency. So we train them how to do that. But the majority of their training is going to come from sitting down with the trainer, learning exactly how to do the job.
How are they trained in the realm of trying to stay calm in what is not a calm situation for the person that's calling? Because you're dealing with people that are dealing with life-challenging moments depending upon the circumstances. I mean, some might be a little more mundane, but a lot of them are not. So how do they remain calm to process what's coming in information, get it down, and understand where to route that so that the proper person's showing up? That takes a really specific skill set to be able to do that, right?
Yes, yes. You have to remain calm yourself because once you start getting excited or elevated or raising your voice, all that's going to do is elevate the caller, get them a little more excited. So yes, we do have to use calming techniques to calm people down, continually providing them reassurance that we're getting them help, and trying to gather as much information. Sometimes just asking questions and getting the caller to answer the questions helps. using their name, things like that helps, you know, and reassuring the caller that we do have help coming to them. That's the biggest part of it. Most people are calling us when they're in need of help.
Yeah.
They're not calling us because they're having a good day. So asking a series of questions to the callers helps us gather information, and the more information we can get from them, the better we can relay that information to our police officers or to our firefighters, and let them know what the situation that they're walking into.
And again, when the caller calls 911, they're getting a dispatcher, and you know, so police and fire are all being dispatched, and EMS are all coming from the same source.
Correct.
So y'all are having to decide based on the circumstances what type of units, and I know there's protocols for that.
Yes.
For, you know, if it's a, you know, single family residential fire versus maybe a high-rise building type fire, you know, there's different apparatus that gets dispatched. You know, y'all know the you know, the locations of where all the equipment's staged, you know who's on duty, who's not, that kind of a thing. So there's a lot of processing that has to take place in a very short period of time for that person to understand this is a situation, let's get these folks out there to help them, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And a huge part of dispatching is being able to multitask. In addition to just speaking to somebody on the phone, you've got to be able to quickly think and make decisions based on the information that you're either hearing or being told. Sometimes we have to make decisions on just what we're hearing in the background and not necessarily what we're being told on the phone.
So definitely some challenges and experience. I mean, you talk about the training that goes in. You don't just say go. You obviously there's a level of training. You get the on-the-job training. You're still being supervised and things like that. And I know there's monitoring that goes on beyond that circumstances. And everyone I know works as a team to get that done. You might be dealing with a caller, but everyone's working together to make sure the objective is to get the proper services where they need to be routed to so that the situation is taken care of as quickly as possible, so that person in their moment of need has the resources that can help them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard to train on just one specific incident because there are different factors that could always come into play that change it.
Correct.
So, you know, they have to be very quick thinking and sometimes make a gut decision based on the information either given or that they hear.
Understand. Now, I mentioned off the top there, you know, there is the non-emergency number for the city, 923-2350. I think it's option 8, if I recall correctly, on the phone menu when you call the police department. And then, of course, there's 911, very easy number to remember. How would you distinguish for someone who's thinking about they have a situation to distinguish between which one to call? I don't think you want everyone going to 911 per se, but how would you, in your expertise, to say that when X is happening, maybe think about going this route versus that, but the bottom line is making sure you're contacting someone.
Right.
Yeah.
If you come home and found that your bicycle was taken from the front yard, there's no suspects around or no potential that it just occurred, then we should use the non-emergency line.
Okay.
Something like a barking dog can come in on the non-emergency line. However, our things that are more critical would be a house fire, somebody that's sick or injured, in need of an ambulance to respond, a domestic type situation, things like that need to come in on 911. And if callers are not sure, call 911 and we'll tell them, you know, you can call the non-emergency number and we'll refer them.
Gotcha. Well, you know, I said off the top, you know, some interesting times that we're dealing with COVID-19. How has that impacted the way you and your staff are performing when you're interacting with callers? Because I know there's some new protocols in place when it's a medical situation with regard to kind of going through some questions with them to make sure that the responders understand maybe the situation may be a COVID situation, may not be, or whatever. How have y'all been handling that?
We are asking a series of questions in addition to our normal questions, but we're also doing it for police calls for service.
Okay.
Police, all of the maybe non-essential or non-emergency type calls, we are handling by phone. An officer will call them back, and if for some reason an officer does need to be sent out there, then we'll do so at that time. But we're trying to handle those calls by phone first. And these calls are being asked of all callers, and it's mainly to protect our first responders.
Correct.
And the citizen as well. It's things like, do they have a fever? Are they having any shortness of breath, chest pains, things like that.
Got it.
That we're dealing with. Our calls have increased a little bit because we have more people at home, more children at home now. But they're different types of calls. And, you know, and we're doing the best we can. Given the circumstances.
I understand. And I'm sure seasonally sometimes you might see this type of call go up or down depending upon the circumstances. You know, when kids are in school, maybe less situations where they're out riding a bike and get hurt during the course of the day, but then during the summer, those calls may change because of the nature of things. But again, there's always staff that are there 24/7, ready to help and assist and provide that calming voice, understand the situation, help the caller, and also help our staff with fire and rescue, and police get dispatched to the right point. So I mean, it's a lot going on in a very short period of time, and having seen some of your staff in action in the past, the way they respond to things, I think it's amazing sometimes what these women and men do when they're handling these situations, the way they do it, and they're just calm in their demeanor. And like you said, there's no textbook situation. Everything's got a little variances to it, little twists and turns to it, but being able to handle every one of those situations like they do, I mean, it's definitely a thankless job in that sense, because people don't think about these folks, but they are definitely there doing the job they're doing and deserve a whole lot of credit and admiration for doing so. So
yes,
yeah,
most definitely.
As far as, you know, when you're looking for when people are being hired for those positions, is there some kind of character trait or some kind of thing you're looking for in an individual sometimes that might say this person might be really good at this job? Because it's certainly not a job for everyone.
No, it's not.
Right.
They have to be able to handle stress very well. Somebody that can multitask, because we're having to listen to a caller on the phone, type exactly what they're saying, and sometimes people can't multitask, so that's a big one. Organizational skills are always important, things like that.
Yep. And again, if we got a hurricane blowing and going, your staff are there, looking out, seeing everything that's going on outside in the world around them, so to speak. I know headquartered here at City Hall, have a facility on the second floor here, so again, that's where these folks are working out of. But y'all have technology in place in the event that you back up some redundancy and some things like that, given systems being up or down, which traditionally they're always up, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
But to have things in place in the event that maybe a disaster would happen to the building, you have backup things for that, and I think that's great for the preparation, and having your folks being so adaptable that given those circumstances, which again hopefully don't arise, that you can react to that and handle things as you need to if you have to go in the field or whatever to handle making sure those phone calls are being answered.
Right. We're very fortunate here in the city that we do have a space that we could go to within our own city to set up a backup center, and we also have a communications bus that we could dispatch on as well. So we have two locations that provide us with a backup center should we have to evacuate this building. And a lot of agencies are not as fortunate as we are here in Suffolk, so I'm very blessed. So we would not discontinue any operation if we had to evacuate this building. We would still be able to answer 911 calls. We would still be able to dispatch for both police, fire, EMS, and our animal control officers as well.
Yes. Indeed. And we talk about the equipment, and like you said, how we are blessed to have the equipment we have and be forward thinking and making sure that we're on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to being able to handle the situations that we have to do. But again, it still comes down to people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the thing, certainly with National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, we're recognizing the people, the women and the men who do these jobs on a daily basis for the work that they put in there. And I want to say thank you to you and your staff for the job that you do, you continue to do, especially in the times that we're in right now, to make sure, again, you're the calming voice on the other end of the phone when those calls come in. So thank you and your staff for everything y'all do.
Thank you.
And again, it's 1 week out of the year, but really we should be recognizing, year-round with regard to the quality of work that they do and the situations they handle for our citizens here in the city of Suffolk. So Kim, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That will do it for this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. We'll see you next time.